Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Salesforce Sphere. All right, so I wanted to, with this playlist, understanding the Lightning Web Component. So I wanted to introduce a whole new, a whole brand new series, which is dedicated to learn the Lightning Web Component. So whether if you are a beginner, I mean, you just are being starting out, or else if you are a working professional also, and you are looking to deepen your understanding. So this series is particularly designed with you in mind. So in this particular series, I will be covering everything, like from the beginning, from the basics to the advanced concepts of LWC. And this way, I'll be providing you with the knowledge, the kind of skills that are needed, particularly to excel your knowledge in the Salesforce development with respect to the LWC. Okay, so without any further ado, so join me in this journey and we're going to explore the power of Lightning Web Component. And I'll take your Salesforce expertise to the next level. That's a promise. One last thing, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification so that, as and when I'll be adding any new video in this series, you're going to get a notification which keeps you updated for this. All right. Now, in my last video, we have discussed something about the spread operator. So I told in that, before going directly to start with the concepts of LWC, we should at least learn a few basic concepts that are related to the conventional JavaScript. So this would help you out. This would help you out if you would understand those basic concepts of JavaScript. It would definitely going to help you out a lot when we take a deep dive into your LWC. So in my last video, which was second in this series, I have explained about the spread operator, and I told that there could be a three different purpose of using a spread operator in a JavaScript. The first out of that was the concatenation of two strings, or maybe the two arrays or the elements inside the arrays of or an object. That was the first use. Now let me go ahead with the same discussion, and in today's session, uh, I will be also covering a new topic, which is about the concept of loops, different forms of loops that we generally use in the JavaScript, and how they are different. What could be the purpose of each one of them? All right. Now coming back to the topic, the second purpose of a spread operator is about expanding a string. So what does it means by expanding a string? It's actually a very small concept. And so let me take a direct example and let me show you, like, with the help of an example. Let's suppose I'm writing something like with my name, I'm defining a property with let keyword. The property name is my name. And then I'm writing a string over here, such as my name is Hassan. All right. Now, see, if I go further and I will print this on console.log, wherein I could directly print it like, sorry about this bad throw, console.log, my name, and then the value of property, my name. Let's see what happens with this. So what I'm going to do would be, I first of all would press Control S, which would eventually save my script. And then I'll be launching Go Live Server. So there are two different ways to do that. In my previous video also, I've talked about this. Either what you can do is, like, you can go with the HTML click, make a right click of your mouse. The first option, what you see is open with the live server. The another option is there is a small icon, which you can see it over here in the bottommost bar, which is like Go Live. You can press any one of them, either from here or one. Like, you can do that. Now, this way, this live server would help you out to see the outputs while you are coding for normal JavaScript. How to do this with the conventional LWC, we're going to see that too. Now, with this browser, you have to inspect it out. So what I usually prefer is Control Shift I. Control Shift I will give you the console log. Now I can see it's not loaded properly. Let me go back and try to make this connection once again. This time I'll be trying it from the HTML file. So I just have pressed my right button and again I would be going with, yeah. So as you can see, I already have one in my HTML. I have given one message just to check out whether the connection of this VS Code to the live server is being established properly or not. So this is a live session, and if I see this message, it actually indicates the connection has been established properly. Now, again, I'm going to repeat the same process. I'll press Ctrl Shift I to inspect this out, and because all right. So in my JavaScript file, I have created one property. Property usually is variable, but in generally in JavaScript, we don't use the words like variables and all. We call it as property. So I have defined one property and I've given this a string. And when I'm trying to print it out, let's see what is the output. I'll do one thing. Let me bring both of them to the same page like this. And let me do one more thing over here. Just trying to see how I can hide this source control. So I'll do one more thing. I'll just hide this so that I'm going to get maximum area for my typing. All right. So this is that string which I have defined. So when I have printed it out, the value is coming like this. Now let me show you what is the use of spread operator for expanding a string. So I'm again making one more console.log statement for over here. And now I will be using spread operator. So spread operator is just three dots. I mean, it's very simple. So I name. And this way, I have printed it out. Now, as soon as I'll be saving it over here, we are going to see the output in the left. Okay. Now you can see this is my original string. And when by the use of spread operator, we were being able to expand this. Okay. Now, this is what the spread operator actually do in terms of expanding of a string. Now let's talk about like what could be the practical purpose? What could be the purpose of expanding a string? So basically, in real time, uh, there are a few requirements wherein we wanted to particularly search for a character for searching of a word, or maybe for searching of a regular expression, or maybe we wanted to look for a certain pattern in an input. So that time we do this kind of things. We expand the strings, we expand the input strings, the whole strings, and then we try to find out for a particular pattern. For could be a character, could be a spatial symbol, could be a regular expression inside a string. This way. So, and with some of the example in upcoming days, when we particularly go and see the things in respective of LWC, we're going to find out a few good example for this concept that time. But as of now, let's try to keep it simple. We are discussing about the purpose of this spread operator. So far, we have discussed two of them. Like if we wanted to concatenate, if we wanted to combine the values, the entities of inside an array or maybe an object, then we can use for concatenation, we can use the spread operator. That was in my first video. Now the second use of a spread operator is when we wanted to expand something out, when we wanted to expand the string. All right, so when we wanted to expand the string, that time also we'll make a use of spread operator. All right. Now the next use of the spread operator is to add an element either to an array or to the object. See, the examples of the objects we're going to take it later because I wanted to get you all familiar with the arrays. And once you have a little practice onto how to use the arrays and everything, gradually in my upcoming videos, I'll be going to take the examples of the objects. But by the way, to introduce what is an object, it's not something like, your conventional Salesforce object. Rather, when we say the objects in JavaScript, it actually does means, a kind of JSON format. If you are familiar with the JSON JavaScript object notation, so when saying an object, it is similar to something, your JSON entity. So if you are familiar with the JSON have two things. JSON is something called as a key value pair. So every single entity inside a JSON, it have two things. First is key, and the second is value. It looks like something like this, key and value. Now, this is what, in a general term, in JavaScript, this is called as object. So when we say the object is actually a key value pair where keys are always unique, cannot be duplicated throughout records. But the value is something which could be unique or could also be duplicated. So this is what something is called as object. We're going to take a few examples, but in upcoming days, let's first talk about let's first give the example. I'm going to give the example first based on the arrays only. Later on, once you are familiar with this, once you become familiar with this, I'm going to take the examples on the objects too. All right. Now, the third use of a spread operator is to add the elements. Once you have defined an array or maybe an object, you have entered certain entities, certain values into that. And later on, you wanted to insert, you wanted to add a few more elements inside that previously defined array. So that time, we could create, we could take the help of your spread operator. All right. Now you can see, I have already created, I can take this example. I can also take, I can define a new array, entire new array also. Otherwise, I can take this as well. So in this array, I have already defined an array with name array1, and I have given the values 1, 2, 3. And you can see it over here to the values are 1, 2, 3. Later on with the array 2, it's 4, 5, 6. After concatenation of an array, so the connected array particularly have the values like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That was one another thing. So what I'm going to do would be I'm going to take this array to show you how we can add a few more elements inside an array by the use of a spread operator. So presently inside in array 1, we can see there are 3 elements, 1, 2, and 3. These 3 are the elements inside the array number 1. So what I'm going to do would be array 1 in the same array. I would be making a use of spread operator. All right, I'll be making use of spread operator. So spread operator is nothing just like 3 dots. And then name of the array1, comma. Now here I will be introducing some new values. The values which I wanted to enter, the values that we wanted to add inside in this array, we're going to give those values. And remember one thing, while dealing with the arrays, because you have defined this array with the numerical values. Okay, you have defined that this is an array. And at the time of defining this array, while creating this array, we have given some numerical values. So now if I wanted to add something inside the array, the value should also be numerical, because similarly, another thing, here also this is an array. The array called as my favorite fruits. And this array contains string values, character values. If you are trying to enter something inside in this array, the new value should also be the string value. Why so? Because array is a collection of similar elements. That's the basic property. That's the basic ingredient of an array. If you have a little understanding with the programming languages, you know this, that array is technically it is called as a collection of homogeneous elements. When saying homogeneous, it actually means the elements of similar kind, the elements of similar data type, the elements of similar attribute. All right. So this is something you always have to keep this in mind. While in upcoming, I mean, in my upcoming examples, when I will be using object, you're going to clearly differentiate like how in terms of data type, how in terms of the values of an object, it is different from the array. So arrays is something which is always going to have similar kind of elements, while object could have similar, dissimilar, or maybe a combination of different forms of data. And see, object is rather more towards object-oriented programming. Just to keep this process simple, just to make you understand about the examples, I'm using array. I'm using array as of now, just to keep everything simple so that you could understand this. But I have told you, I have promised that, in my upcoming examples, with some few more concepts, I will be using objects also. And if you will see that, you're going to understand the difference between how the object is something which is differed from the arrays. All right, let's talk about that what to say in later videos. Now let me give those values. So what I did, I have inside in array one, I wanted to I wanted to add a few more elements. So I make a use of spread operator, which is just 3 dots. And I've given the name of that array wherein I wanted to add these elements. And now I'll be giving those values. So I wanted to enter like 11, 12, and 13. Okay, now let me do one thing. Let me print those out. So console.log, and I would be printing the array once again. So console.log. About this bad throat. The array 1 equals 2. Now I would be printing the value of array 1. All right. Fine. Let me now save this out. I think I missed, oh, comma. Small comma makes a big difference. Yes. Now you can see the values of array 1. Initially, it was having 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. And now, with the help of a spread operator, you have added 11, 12, and 13. 11, 12, and 13. Now see, it is not just like, you always have to add the elements at the end of this. I mean, like when I have added this, when I have added these new elements, is actually have been appended to the end, right? They have been appended, the new values, the new elements, 11, 12, and 13, they have been appended, they have been added to the end. But it's not something like you always have to add at the end. If let's suppose you wanted to add something to the beginning from the starting, I mean, in the starting of the array, that could also be done. That could also be done with the spread operator. Let me show you how. So, oh, sorry. Before that, I'll do one thing. Again, array 1 equals to array 1 equals to. So this time, because I wanted to add the values first, so I will be giving values like 14, yeah, 15, and 16. And then comma. So what I did, I have given the values, and now I will be make a use of array spread operator with the array name. So let's see what would be happening after once you have added this in the beginning. And now when you print this out with the help of console.log, now you can see these values, the element, the newly inserted element, they are added in the beginning, 14, 15, 16. All right. So it's not something like, you always have to add the element at the end of the array. No. It's not a thumb rule. Depends like how you are using the spread operator. Whether you are using it in the beginning, then these values are going to be added at the end. If you are giving the values and then spread operator, this means whatever is present inside the array, these values are going to be, these values are going to be added. These values are going to be preceded in the beginning. They are going to be added in the beginning. So it depends upon the pattern, how you are using the spread operator, the elements are getting inserted. All right. So this is what the use of a spread operator. This is what is the use of spread operator. Now, in my last video, which was second of this series, I talk about one important one important use of spread operator, and that was about to create the shallow copy. Now, what is the difference between a deep copy and a shallow copy? If you wanted to understand that, which is really, really important in terms of JavaScript, in terms of, when you will be doing the real-time programming, you must have understanding of something called how to create a shallow copy, because in the default behavior of a JavaScript, it always creates something called as a deep. So what is a deep copy? And how spread operator will help you out to create the shallow copy. This everything I have explained in my last video, second of the series. So I would highly recommend every one of you to go and watch that too, because because in my experience, I have seen, like, in major of the circumstances, wherever you wanted to create a shallow copy, will be used spread operator. So that is one prime benefit of spread operator, and it can be used for three different purposes. It can be used to concatenate the values, to combine the values of the arrays or an object. It can be used, to expand the strings, and it can also be used to add the elements either in the beginning of the array or an object, or at the end of the array or an object. So these are the three purposes of using the spread operator. Okay. I think that's all for this video. In my next video, I would be explaining about the commonly used looping techniques, like what is a conventional for loop, what is and how to use for off loop. Let me try to make a note of these things. So in my upcoming video, I would be explaining about something called as, what is conventional for loop, and what is the use of a conventional for loop. Then something called as for off loop. What is the use of for off loop? We're going to see that. And then we will also see, for in. Let me try to think out if there is any more things. So for in, for off. Yes, conventional for loop is one of them. Second is for off, and third is for in. Yeah, these are the three things. These are the three different forms of the loop that we usually use in the JavaScript, in the LWC particularly. So what is the purpose of them? Where to use which loop? Where to use the conventional for loop? Where to use the, the for off loop? Where to use the for in loop? And this everything we are going to discuss in our next video. Thank you again. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to meet you in the next video.